I started a business inside of a video game where I had a bunch of people working for me to bring me goods, and then I sold it for a higher price. I went to a cybersecurity advisory startup, and that's where I started learning how to sell stuff. Having the nice writing presented in a way that just doesn't read like a PhD thesis is so important.
All right. Wow. Okay, and just quickly, and 1, 2, 3.
Welcome, listeners, to the podcast show Marketing for Tech. Thanks for tuning in today. And to make sure that you don't lose this video, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. And to provide some background, I'm Olga, and I'm the founder and CEO of The Gain, the expert and brand management and marketing solution for tech businesses. Today, I have a guest, Grayson Berman. And Grayson is a cybersecurity executive with a diverse background in technical and leadership roles. With a bachelor in computer science, Grayson's career spans from protecting major defense contractors as a cyber intelligence analyst to managing cybersecurity policy for nuclear research. That's really interesting. And he successfully transitioned into business development, selling cybersecurity services to small and medium-sized businesses across the US. And currently, Grayson is a co-founder of a startup focusing on cybersecurity services and trainings for small and medium-sized businesses. Well, first of all, thank you so much, Grayson, for joining my podcast. And I want to mention that we have met through LinkedIn. And
yes,
never met in person, but this is the case when the LinkedIn connection turns into collaboration, which is it
happens a lot.
Amazing.
Yeah,
well,
it happens a lot.
It happens a lot to me, to be honest.
Okay.
But it's not unusual. That's what I want to say. It's not unusual, but it's really, really, really good to see when you actually can connect from a person from different country with different businesses with different approaches, maybe in some terms of services and cybersecurity. However, I want to mention that I am participating in your pilot training service for leadership and cybersecurity.
Yep. Thank you so much for that.
I'm really excited because we only had one session, but I'm really excited to see what's coming. And also because we're talking about cybersecurity, and I mentioned in your bio that you have a bachelor in computer science.
I do.
And you could go to any other roles because the computer science will give you open so many doors for you. But you chose cybersecurity. So my first question is probably, why cybersecurity? Is it anything personal?
So really what happened is I found out in between just before my second semester, my last year of college, I tried a cybersecurity course. It was one of those accelerated courses. It was like 3 weeks long, and I loved it. I was great at it, and I hated programming. So I tried to get a job that was not programming. And that is it. That is the only reason I started here. And out of college, I went to world's biggest cybersecurity conference called RSA. I showed up in my leather jacket and jeans, which is not really typical for tech college students. They don't look that way. And I think I had a leather briefcase too, full of resumes, right? And I went to what's called a college day. College day was, they let college students come to this conference for 3 days. You get to listen to top cyber executives at Fortune 500 companies. So Lockheed was there. The rest don't really matter because I ended up at Lockheed. But I left a good impression there. And they interviewed me while I was still in my last semester of college. And I got the job before I graduated. So I didn't even have to look for a software engineering job. That's how it started.
Well, this is, I think it's really exciting. Just like, oh, thanks God, I didn't even have to think about engineering programming. And I found like my, the ideal job straight away.
Yeah.
And so obviously you started as a junior and then you were growing, you're making through, you were building your career. And what was probably the most exciting thing that you learned when you were building your career in cybersecurity in particular?
Geez, the most exciting thing I've learned? Well, I'll tell you this first. The first two jobs I can talk about vaguely because they were both government cleared environments. So I had a couple different security clearances. So exciting things that happened there, I can't really tell you about.
That's all right. That's a top secret. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I could. I just would not be in good standing with the United States government. So not a good place to be.
Get the second one from the top.
So I would say the most exciting thing is also the most terrifying. And it's how insecure everything is, truthfully. Like everything, every business, every institution, your home router, not great. The bus you go to work on, not great. It's really like everything we operate on is ridiculously insecure because most of this computer infrastructure stuff was not built with security in mind. And so we have a bunch of old antiquated systems. I mean, really anything older than like 15 years, not very up to date. It's going to have a bunch of vulnerabilities. And so it's exciting because there's so many different problems to solve. There's so many different crazy vulnerabilities that these brilliant hackers, I don't know how they figure this stuff out, but they find every tiny vulnerability in the world that is like, the way your computer starts up and the timer function works. They find some weird way to edit a 1 or a 0 on your computer, and it affects that timer function. And all of a sudden they have access to everything. Like, this is real. And it's for all kinds of technology. So it's really scary at the same time, because if you talk to cyber people, most of them will probably agree that World War III, if there ever is one, is definitely going to be cyber warfare. Because you think about, you can drop like a nuclear bomb. It's devastating. What happens when you hack an electrical grid and you turn off power to the entirety of California? You can turn off cities. Well, after a few days, the food goes bad. If you look at Texas a while back, their power grid went offline and like people are almost freezing to death. It's seriously scary at the same time. So it's like a combo of, it's really the extent and severity of security and vulnerabilities. It's not what I expected, man. Not at all.
No, definitely not. And it's I just want to know how because now you're doing training and you're providing services to small, medium-sized businesses. Why have you decided to go through from your corporate career to entrepreneurship and starting your own business?
Yeah. Something I thought about a lot the past year, actually. And I realized it's not, why did I go from corporate to entrepreneurship? It's, why did I go to corporate? Because if I look back when I was younger, so I come from a family of entrepreneurs, all of them, dad, cousins, brother, whoever else, like everyone has been an entrepreneur at some point, successfully or unsuccessfully. I don't know if it's genetic, but it's a big thing. And I was kind of predisposed to it, certainly at a young age. When I was, 11 years old, I think I was 11, I started a business inside of a video game where I had a bunch of people working for me to bring me goods, and then I sold it for a higher price. I wasn't even playing the game. Other people were playing for me, right? I created my own business. My first real job was landscape construction. And if you do construction, I don't know how you handle it. I quit after 3 days. There's something about being out there in the heat and trying to dig 4-foot deep holes that it's a lot. And so instead of taking that kind of job, I figured out a way to make my own money. And it was go out to garage sales, estate sales, whatever, buy some stuff, and then sell it for more. That's how I was. When I was in college, I really wanted to start a business, but someone told me that it made more sense to pursue computer science because you always had a comfy career to fall back on. And if you fail, you can go to a job, which is pretty much true. So I went into the tech side, not because I was insanely passionate about it, but kind of to de-risk my life. And so I found I go to corporate, and tech stuff is fine. I can do it. I really like cybersecurity, but it wasn't where my passion was. And I realized that around my second job. Took a big career hop. I skipped several years of career, got a pretty senior gig at the nuclear research lab. And it was the most miserable thing ever. I hate it. I never want to do policy ever again, and I had to take some time off. I took at least 6 months. I didn't work. It's just, things weren't going right. I didn't want to go back to anything I've been doing. And then I accepted, this is what I really want to do, is get in business, start my own business. And I thought, okay, I don't know what business I want to start, but I do know businesses got to sell stuff. So I'm going to go learn how to sell stuff in the meantime. And so I went to a cybersecurity advisory startup, and that's where I started learning how to sell stuff. And that's where the pivot started. Then, I almost started an AI company after that with a friend of mine. And instead, I was the COO at a cyber AI company in the US. And so it was very eye-opening, meeting with a lot of the large enterprises, learning about how the whole channel ecosystem stuff works. And I don't want to say I have a huge grip on it, but I have a good enough understanding that I think I can identify some problems with the people out there. For me, it's SMBs are extremely underserved. And two is I can actually provide something of value now, which is getting them the information and the skills they need to secure themselves. That right there, it's like the perfect opportunity. So that's why I jumped into it completely.
And, this is what you said, like you understood the problem and a problem within the small and medium-sized businesses. So this is how I actually see your content on LinkedIn, that you can see the problem and you talk to people in really simple terms. And the scenario based, this is what I've noticed, that you putting maybe a really big problem in simple terms in like a scenario based format. And not many actual cybersecurity experts do that. Lots of tech companies, and I work with them, lots of tech companies, they utilize tech terms. They see the way from the technical side rather than from the business side or from, prospects, client side. They don't focus on tech rather than on the problem solving. And this is this is the main issue, I would say, and challenge for any tech companies. But honestly, I really enjoy your content on LinkedIn. And this is what I wanted to ask. Obviously, you started building your personal brand on LinkedIn and putting lots of content, being really thoughtful about business owners who has no idea about cybersecurity. Is it something that you learned when you were part of the cybersecurity AI startup, like when you were learning how to sell?
Yeah. So
built it like naturally, like I understand it. This is the content I will create.
No. I see what you're saying. So it's two parts. One is I was really tech brain, super tech brain, because I did computer science, then super technical stuff, and then some cyber policy stuff at two corporations, right? And then I said, here's the period of my life where I'm going to start selling things and figuring that out. That was all unwinding the tech brain. it was all unwinding the tech brain because we were selling to SMBs. So I wasn't talking to a cybersecurity guy because they didn't have one.
No.
I was calling, like I'd pick up the phone and cold call probably like 10,000 calls at least. And it was from coast to coast and Hawaii and Alaska. I was calling business owners or C-suite or VP, like nothing below that. And so I had to figure out how to communicate with these people. And the first probably month and a half was me smashing my face into the wall, not understanding why don't these people get it? Why don't they understand they need security? Why don't they blah, blah, blah? They don't know the words. And truthfully, they don't care. They don't care. And it's not through them being malicious or anything. It's most people see security as an IT thing or a check the box for compliance so you can sell it. And I completely understand. Because when you go look at like all the cybersecurity people talking, they write in really technical terms because they're writing for other cybersecurity people. That's it. And everything is extremely technical. And so there's a huge gap in the ability to understand the technical stuff, but say, this is what it does for you at your business. And so when I started writing, I've been having probably 100 conversations with SMB owners, C-suite, wherever they're at, and trying to do some type of consultative sales, which is, hey, let's talk it out. What's your situation? Let me give you some information. Did you know that you're now falling under the GLBA rules, the safeguard rule? And they're like, oh, what is that? And I said, you have to follow these rules or the government says you're in trouble. And I can help them with that because, nobody's pointing it out. So as I continued to work at the AI company, I got away from the small and medium businesses. And when you get to the really large enterprises, I'm now talking to essentially two types of people, three. One is the super technical guy, really technical, and you have to speak techie with that person. But then there's the CISO, and they're the business cybersecurity person. So you have to speak to them. Like they understand the cybersecurity concepts and words, but you have to tell them what they care about. And it's not this device is looking at the ones and zeros in the internet. That's not what they want to know. It's how do you solve a business problem that they have? And there's so many cybersecurity companies out there. And you have to be on top of it to sell to one of these large enterprises. And it's really tough. So instead of telling them all the tech details, I'd have to say, here's our AI tool. It does some cool stuff, but you have this problem. You're a public company and you get breached. You have to tell the SEC and report everyone, or you have to report you were breached and notify all the customers whose data was accessed. And that costs money. If you lose their social security numbers, you have to notify them, provide them, identity protection, credit monitoring, all that stuff. And it can be like
a nightmare.
Yeah. And it can be more than $50 a person. So when you're dealing with someone who has 1 million customers, that's a $50 million problem. And I can say our technology helps you find exactly who was compromised so that instead of reporting and paying $50 million, it only affected 1,000 accounts. And so you only have to report to 1,000 people. And instead of 50 million, that's $50,000, right? So that's where the business use case is so important. And that's where I picked that up. And then getting LinkedIn writing, I'm pretty conversational. I don't like to use big terms. And plus, I think it's just more fun. I don't like to be as serious. So when I started writing on LinkedIn, I thought, I'm going to write for people who don't actually understand, and I'm going to tell stories. Stories are an amazing way to get things across. And I'm going to use Grayson language. I'm not going to throw out all the terms that I could, So that's kind of how my LinkedIn content just started. And there's one more piece. If you want to ask another question, I can stop.
Go for it. Yeah.
So there's another piece here, and it's who am I talking to? Because I realized when you're writing, I loved the impression count. I love that number getting bigger. But then I thought about, what am I trying to accomplish? Who am I trying to talk to? And so the nice thing about looking at your LinkedIn posts is there's some metrics that could be better, but you can see the demographics of who's reading your stuff. And so job title by percentage. And I was attracting a bunch of IT people. And I was like, that was really good when I was at the AI company trying to sell to IT people. But right now I'm not. So I had to redo my writing, not necessarily change the style or the tone, but the content I was focusing on. Now you go look at my demographics and it's like founder, CEO, COO, co-founder, and I think sometimes owner, right? So I've kind of optimized my content for a specific audience. The impression count is lower overall, but it's probably a lot more people who are now sending me LinkedIn invitations and connects and who are seeing my stuff, right? So the messaging, know who you're messaging to.
It's really targeted now. And you know what? It's super rare when a tech person understands and actually using the word storytelling. I probably can, the hand count of like how many times I heard from a tech people saying like, storytelling is important. Know your audience. I was like, I would be really surprised if a tech person would tell me that. And it's really important to understand that understanding your audience is really important. When you look at your analytics now on LinkedIn and you see like, okay, maybe impressions are low now, but at least it's more targeted. Now I definitely talk to people I want to talk to. And
Exactly.
It's now it's a marketing question. It's going to be a marketing question about what do you think about marketing for companies, for cybersecurity especially? Because just a quick background. When I talk to cybersecurity experts here in Australia, I see the main pattern. They prefer to work, and it's pretty much the business. This is how the business built in Australia. They work through referrals a lot. And cybersecurity experts, the majority of them, not all of them, the majority of them prefer not to tell the story. So they work through different referrals, and this is how they find the clients. They don't really tell big stories. It's like, oh, we don't really want to tell our secrets. The bad guys already know all the secrets, so there's nothing new that you can tell them. But it's like, it's really tricky in terms of cybersecurity. You don't really tell the case studies, the way we work, because we don't want, give them another way to find vulnerabilities in the systems and all that stuff. So majority companies still working through referrals. So they don't do marketing as such. But you talking different way. So you taking different approach and you do your marketing, you work on the social media, you do the LinkedIn stuff. So how would you explain your marketing approach and how important it is for companies?
Yeah. It's a big topic.
Mm-hmm.
I've been on some cyber marketing podcasts, some of those groups, and everyone has a different, maybe not a different stance on, or like a different approach. We all understand there's the same big problem. So if you're trying to sell to enterprises, medium or large enterprises, they are being harassed by 1 trillion people, phone calls, emails nonstop. They're also the most skeptical and paranoid people who don't want to take a phone call because, it might be someone trying to record their voice for an AI deepfake, which is, by the way, why I don't answer most phone calls. Or they might not want to click a link in the email, which is kind of an important thing if you're sending out marketing emails, right? So they're bombarded by a ton of people doing cold outreach, especially phone calls, because that's one of the only ways to get to them. They also have 1 trillion different cybersecurity companies saying they solve 1 trillion different problems with a fixed budget, and it's usually seen as a cost center. So they have to decide, this is how I'm going to spend my money, and I'm going to lock in this contract for at least 3 years. So it's really competitive to get in front of these people. I think it's easier if they want to know you. I don't want to have to outreach. I've done it and it's a pain. So for me, it's how do I become someone that people want to know and talk to? How do I become someone that I get inbound? Because if I can keep writing and get more inbound than I can handle, that's amazing. That's amazing. I mean, today I had someone say, hey, I wanted to connect. I'm cybersecurity co-founder. I started this organization. I wanted more cybersecurity stuff on my feed, which is why I'm connecting, right? Like if you become someone people want to know or people want to talk to, it is much easier to get some of these conversations with whatever decision makers there are. And most of the people who reach out are not someone they want to talk to. A lot of the time they don't want to talk to. So when I go through LinkedIn, right now what I'm thinking about is how do I get these people to think, one, I'm like them, or that I understand them, which is probably the most important thing. Two, how do I make them feel like I understand their problems and I have a solution? And three, how do I make them go from reading my thing to seeing my banner and my profile to clicking to go to my website or book a time with me, right? And that is where it's a lot easier. It's just not as scalable. And this is something that will scale with me no matter which business I'm at. But one of my other concerns is this is a good place to start. But when I go to maybe sell the cybersecurity business we're making, it can't be the only lead gen. I can't be the brand and sell the business, right? Because then if I leave the company, where are the people coming from? Where are the people you're going to sell to? So you have to come up with a new way to contact these people. Referrals are a very easy way to get a high conversion percentage, or it is really high likelihood of converting someone through a referral. And people are really hard to contact. So that's why a lot of people rely on referrals. And it's a good system to set up. But if you want to make something scalable that's not referral based, that's not based on your reputation, that's where it gets really tough. And so you'll see a lot of these cybersecurity companies are going and setting up booths at conferences. And that's where people go, like the CISOs who want to actually buy stuff and learn about the technology. That's kind of where the marketing really goes. But the real play, 90% of cybersecurity, I think it's 75% of tech, 90% of cybersecurity is sold through the channel. So marketing is not as, I don't want to say not as important, but it's not where all the sales come from. So they're partnering with companies that, like a business will partner with someone called a VAR, value added reseller, who sells 5 different technology products to that one company. So we go partner with the VAR who works with 10 different businesses that they already have relationships with. And that's how cybersecurity companies tend to scale. It's not through marketing, word of mouth, but through partnerships. So, man, it felt like the conversation started here and did a little bit of this. So I don't know if I answered your question, but there was definitely some content there. Hopefully some value.
Yeah. No, you did.
Just give me a quick second. My laptop is dying.
Oh no. Sorry about that. If you want to try another take, feel free.
The partnership that you mentioned is one of the marketing strategies too, and it's quite efficient. The way it works, it's quite efficient, as you said. So, like, your strategy would be partnering with different companies, let's say like IT consulting companies that provide a bunch of services, and you will be one of them, which is. It's a fantastic way to reach new networks and audience as well.
Yeah. And with cybersecurity sales, a lot of it is trust-based or referral-based or reputation. They want social proof like this works. So when you go through a channel partner, IT services consulting company, you're borrowing their reputation.
Exactly.
Customer, which is great. If you don't have a reputation, awesome. And I think there are 2 things about it though. One is sometimes they want marketing materials from you, some of these channel partners, so that they can sell you to their customers, which I've provided them before, helped adjust it. Some smaller channel partners don't expect it. They're just going to bring it to someone, which I've also had happen. The other thing is, if it's a big enough partner, they expect a co-investment. So you're going to give them some cash plus help them pay for an employee of theirs to actually go sell this thing to their customers. So depending on what you sell, especially if it's the large enterprises, it costs money to get these partnerships.
Right. Okay, that's a good point. And have you been working with different countries as well, or just across the US?
Yeah. So I've done a lot of global business development, Middle East, Europe, Asia. Last partnership I did was actually in Thailand. So yeah, it was a VAR, I think. And so I met the CEO, helped him understand how to sell it to his customers, position the product, made sure that the pricing model made sense. Yeah, it's a global thing.
And do you find, obviously there's a different approaches to every country's market, right? Is it like any challenges that you see? Because I know the Middle East can be quite
so
challenging.
It's different. So it's really interesting. Something I didn't expect is with tech, you can have the physical, you can have cloud products, right? Which just means instead of buying a device from you, you're running the software through like Amazon. So they access Amazon, you access Amazon. That's where the data is. In Europe, they hate it. They hate it so much because it gets really complex contractually. Yeah. So when I was dealing with a bunch of European customers, and this applied to certain Middle Eastern countries too, they didn't want cloud anything, which made us extremely competitive in those regions because a lot of our competitors at the time were cloud only. So we were selling them a physical device. So they're worried about data privacy because the way they do contracts with GDPR data is like, if they start to process their customers' data, the new partner or new customer with a new, like instead of using Amazon, they go to Microsoft Shop. They have to update their contract with their customers. Yeah, it's really weird contractually. So it's completely different there. The value propositions are different. And there's always some cultural differences too on my first meeting with someone in the Middle East. They joined the call and they said, like three men sit down and they go, "Salam alaikum." And I didn't know what they said. And I was like, "Oh, hey guys." It's a traditional like Middle Eastern greeting. And you're supposed to respond a specific way, right? They asked me where my accent was from after that. So there's some giveaways. But yeah, the cultural differences are a thing. And then with marketing as well, they have different preferences on tonality or style. Like being casual and conversational can work some places in the US. Saying what your stats are can work really well in the US. But I remember reading something about a cybersecurity company advertising in, I don't know, one of the Scandinavian countries. And they didn't adopt some cultural differences. And it seemed like they were bragging in their materials. They had the same product. They were telling them the stats, and that country just hated it. And so they rejected the same exact advertisements because it was the same language, both in English, but they rejected that advertisement because it didn't match culturally. So I don't envy marketers going all in with different countries.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree. You know, I've been working with Australian companies, and then I started working with the US companies. And I definitely can see the difference between those two markets. For example, the US market is more open in terms of different collaborations. They are willing to explore, whether this, for example, Australian market is more through referrals. Of course, you can do like a cold outreach or something else, but they prefer to work through the network. This is where they get most of the clients. And the thing is, sometimes I think there's like they skip a marketing, they try marketing, and they're like, "Oh, we need sales." Well, there's slightly maybe different. For example, well, the US is the US is the motherland of the marketing, just in general.
It's maybe the biggest economy in the world, so maybe, who knows? Maybe that's why it's so big here. I think something that is interesting is marketing plays a big role here too, not in the way I expected, not in the advertising stuff, but in making case studies and nice data sheets and documentation. Oh my God. They ask for it in like every cybersecurity sale. Do you have a case study for a business of my size in my industry? How did you change their life? They all ask for this, almost all. And tech writing, especially when it's your developers writing it, is atrocious. You got to have marketers to make nice content too. So there's, I didn't even think about bringing that one up. Having the nice writing presented in a way that just doesn't read like a PhD thesis is so important.
Yes, it is. And I remember was working with project managers when I was working in an industrial automation company, and being like a tech marketer who actually would translate. I was spending so much time with the project managers.
Yeah.
They would, because they were selling different components, data centers, it's hardware for industrial automation like factories, trains, and etc. So they would talk to each other and to suppliers their own language. But the thing is, like, how would you sell it to dealers who would sell it to clients? Because they're not necessarily tech savvy. They're not necessarily understanding the language. And this is where I spend so much time and trying to translate from the tech English into normal English. Where I understand what you mean, because I was sitting manager and said, like, can you explain what it means? Like, I don't understand. This just doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
That's extremely important. It's really crucial for people. Otherwise, like, you won't be able to sell because you don't understand.
Absolutely. And so you might like this one. I was speaking at the university I went to about cybersecurity. And when I was doing my presentation, my slides had two versions. One side was nerd words, the technical stuff, and one side was people words, so that anyone who wasn't technical could understand, because they're two different languages. And when you're selling things, when you're marketing, I think what a lot of tech companies don't realize at first, because they're started by technical people who are super passionate, is it's not just technical people involved in the sale. You're going to be explaining, like, they need to explain to their CFO why they need to buy this cybersecurity tool that costs $1 trillion. So if you only write for your technical guy, technical girl in their technical job, you're missing half of it. Writing for someone who's making the actual decision, right? So tech words, nerd words, people words.
No, I know. And you know what is, so we sort of talked about like your journey in AI and your cybersecurity. Sure. And you've been across so many different things. And, there's so many things actually, across the internet, you can hear different trends. And now I just actually I have an article that I've read, and I summarize it for us. And I really want to hear your thoughts on these trends. Okay. Because we touched pretty much all of this points. doing an interview. So there was an article of one of the cybersecurity training provider, and this training provider released some insights into top 5 cybersecurity trends expected to shape organizational strategies in 2025.
Okay.
So, number 1 cybersecurity trend for 2025: AI-powered attacks. Hackers using AI for smarter, more personalized threats. Your perspective on this trend, so the hackers.
My perspective on attacking with AI, essentially. Deepfake technology. They make something. Originally, it was like they were taking your face to put on a video. Now they can generate video of you. They can generate audio of you. It's a very, very scary thing because it's extremely realistic. So I actually met a guy whose startup does deepfake detection through audio. And they're selling it to enterprises for, it's like, you know how people have note takers on their Zoom calls? Well, yes. What they do is add his deepfake detector on their Zoom calls because it's a very expensive problem. And so I see 2 issues here. This is social engineering. They're convincing you to do something that they want you to do. So one is, there's a story in Hong Kong, and I think it was either the CFO was impersonated or someone impersonated the CFO with deepfake technology and convinced someone to wire money out of the company. And it was the equivalent of 25 million USD.
I think these this guy got this person got invite from thinking it's CEO, and then there was a deepfakes attending the meeting. So he thought he's talking to his colleagues. I remember that it was like massive in news.
Yeah. And so here's the thing is a lot of the social engineering done. It's not hacking. I'm just trying to use human psychology against you, which is extremely effective. And so with this deepfake technology, I actually brought this to a military customer we had, because I said, hey, look, you've got your general, whatever. And in the military, they teach the people below to just follow orders. That's the thing. They follow orders. If you start doubting and second guessing your command, like that is against the culture, which they beat into you. So all someone needs to do is fake your general or whoever it is above them, and has a very high likelihood of succeeding with their social engineering. Deepfakes, terrible, freak me out. My buddy's company, doing the right thing. I think that is where I see the most impact. I don't like to call it a cyber problem, but social engineering, because it's not just breaking into businesses. It's politics. It's blackmail. Really anything. It affects everybody in every type of organization, except for hermits out there, living on their own in the mountains. They're not affected by anything.
They're not getting affected by anything.
Yeah. There is actually one really interesting thing that you might want to hear about with AI attacks and the LLMs that generate text. So like your Chat GPT, which is more than an LLM, but like, we'll just say LLM. They are very good at creating malware, at creating the viruses. They're really good at it. And they can create it really quickly, and they can kind of find vulnerabilities in common technology like Windows 10, Windows 11. And so it's a lot easier to write and make malware, which is really scary. It's really scary because now you don't need as much time to attack, and you don't need as skilled of, I guess, professionals to attack.
The rumors I heard, so I'm not sure it's right or not, But when the ChatGPT, when OpenAI just launched and everybody started to notice, well, they didn't have enough data to analyze and to create good outputs. So I heard there's like some hackers starting putting into the ChatGPT wrong code. So for people who were using AI for coding, was getting a really there was like the virus sort of code rather than normal code created.
It's a genuine issue. I don't know how impactful it is right now. When I was at the biggest cybersecurity conference 8 months ago, I met several companies trying to secure LLMs. So there's a lot of concern about what you can do when you type in things into your LLMs. So you can actually like extract information from the LLM. So imagine you've got ChatGPT, but just for your business. And you put in all your corporate policies so that you can just type in, hey, what am I supposed to do when I need to invoice? I'm a contractor. I need like, what are the invoicing rules? And it'll spit it out. Well, you have to protect against someone who's cunning, who knows how to write in the right things on their prompts from having the LLM spit out all of the policies you gave them. You have to protect what's in there. And so I've seen some companies trying to, how'd they phrase it? Protect the outputs by sanitizing inputs. Not quite the same. Yeah. You can, so what you talked about though, putting code in, like typing code in and then it getting into ChatGPT, that's to me is a pretty easy problem to solve for programming. It's called sanitizing your inputs. But I don't know if it actually is an easy problem because I'm not really familiar with the interaction between prompts and the backend of an LLM.
So I want to read the all 5 trends. Are you okay with the time?
Yeah, I've got time. I didn't plan on doing anything for the next hour. So if you want to go long, I'm happy to.
Trend number 2, it's a zero trust. Moving away from traditional security to trust no one approach. What do you think about that?
That being a trend? Yeah, 100% that's a trend. 100%. And it actually killed a couple deals. It killed a couple 6-figure deals for us. I don't know if it's a good idea I don't know if it's a good idea in every situation because I haven't thought about every single situation, but zero trust is a great concept. It's a great way, like, yeah, everyone, I don't want to say everyone should aim at it, but everybody should aim at it.
Yeah. Okay, nice one. And okay, trend number 3, quantum computing risks. New tech might break current encryption methods.
Oh, 100%. 100%, yes. So it just doesn't break it in the way you think, which is really interesting to me. So when we think about what a brute force attack is, it's like someone's just trying to guess your password by putting out 1 billion trillion passwords. And let's say your password is some number between 1 and 1,000. Well, it'd go 1, 2, 3, 4 until it gets to 1,000, right? Right. That's the idea of a brute force, essentially. So where you're limited on brute force, there's 2 sides. One is how many passwords you can guess in one period of time, right? So if you have a really fast computer, it could spit out more passwords in the same amount of time. But that's not really the concern here. It's not the concern. You can protect against that just by saying if someone fails a password 10 times, they're not allowed to log in for another or try to log in for an hour or a day. You can protect against that. The way quantum changes it is it doesn't go through and guess like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The mathematics is completely different. And so I don't want to try to explain it too much, but it is better at guessing what the password is likely to be. So it takes fewer attempts to guess the right password. The math, if you dive into it, is really crazy because it gets into multiple dimensions. It's really hard to understand, but it changes the way that we have to think about security. And the other piece is who's going to have a quantum computer? Like governments, and not all of them, maybe a couple of universities, but it's not going to be a real publicly available tool. So you might see it in like government warfare. I wouldn't be surprised to see a certain company that rhymes with, or a certain country that rhymes with China, use one against any kind of large enterprises or governments around the world. But it's not going to be a factor next year for almost anybody. It's not going to be a factor. You mentioned encryption, right? And quantum computing throws a wrench in encryption, because encryption, the way we secure passwords, the math is wonky, but essentially what you do is just have to guess really, really, really big numbers and try a bajillion different combinations. So our current encryption uses really big numbers, and it takes like 200, 500, 1,000 years for a standard computer to guess the right number. Quantum computers can do it in, I'm not sure the exact amount of time, but it's like a day, an hour, for these same things that take traditional computers like 30 generations of your family, you know? So that completely changes encryption, 100%, completely changes it. And truthfully, like, the other detail people don't consider is quantum computing. Normal computers use ones and zeros. Quantum computers don't use ones and zeros. So we're going to have to create a whole new, like, redo technology. Like Windows won't be a quantum thing. That's a ones and zeros thing. So when everybody gets to quantum, it's just everything we've done so far is probably not going to be relevant.
Gotcha.
That's me being tech nerdy though. So yeah, it breaks encryption.
Interesting. Thanks for the perspective. Okay, we'll go to trend number 4, and it's about IoT and edge computing. More connected devices mean more security risks, and I think this is what we discussed at our first training. So what do you think about that?
It's true. There are a lot of ways to mitigate against it. But the problem with IoT, it's not like, so everybody's using a MacBook. They're using like an Apple operating system. Everyone's using a PC and they're using Windows, Linux, or something. It's pretty standardized. So Windows, they have a bunch of security people who try to make it secure, right? IoT, they're just throwing whatever software on there that they want. Everybody's using something different, and they do not try to secure update this thing. So your smart thermostat, there's like 100,000 different sets of software running on all the different smart thermostats in the world, but they don't get updated. They don't have a security team behind it. So this is why these things suck. This is why they suck. There's no standard. So every time you introduce some kind of IoT, yes, there's some new risks. And is it the biggest risk to your business? I don't know. There are ways to combat IoT risks. But there is something cool I heard about from a friend of mine, and he's trying to start a company that, they're not out of stealth, so I'm not going to say that. But there's some cool approaches to securing IoT that I think are coming out. And
Going to be something interesting. That's
yeah,
what
there's also some
new approach.
There's some interesting IoT things you might want to read about on how they lock you out of different devices, or if it's a wearable thing that you use software to unlock, they might lock you in the device that you're wearing. That's happened. It's
Okay,
crazy.
so we'll be waiting for this in 2025 to see what's going on with IoT then. Okay, and the final trend is, I think you mentioned it's not your favorite one, but sorry.
It's okay.
Is it complex regulations? Companies need to manage various data protection laws and maybe compliance. So it's, well, definitely laws are going to be of really important.
Yeah, around AI.
AI and just in general, how you protect and manage your data.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So I don't know what's going to happen in the US. I'm a little cynical. I think that compliance and regulatory frameworks aren't as strong here because there are certain legal ways to influence the United States government into making or not making certain policies. And there is a big reason for big corporations in the US to not want these strict privacy things. Like you go look up some businesses. I mean, one of them,
name them, but we know
they know everything about you and they sell your data. It's so profitable. Whereas in Europe, they're like way ahead of that. You know, if you have a data point on a European citizen, you have to be very, very particular with it. So adding some AI protections there around like how you handle their data, that'll go over a lot easier, I think. But US, I don't know if we're going to catch up. As for, it's only going to become increasingly important. I have no doubt about that. It affects every single deal I have in cybersecurity, every single one. I can't think of one it didn't affect. And it's about the legal liability and the cost.
And that was all the trends we discussed. And my final question, what advice would you give to someone who wants to start not career in cybersecurity, but maybe own business and how to approach other companies? What advice would you give?
Oh boy. All right. If you start a tech company and you have their data, you are going to spend between $20,000 and $50,000 to be able to sell to customers. And what that means is go look up SOC 2 or not certification, but report SOC 2 audit. Cybersecurity is pay to play. There's absolutely no way you can handle someone's data without having a report. And I spoke to a VC about a year ago who told me exactly that. And then I ran into exactly that. It's expensive. If you are really nice and you have very clear security controls, maybe you find a good partner in the beginning, but it's just expensive selling to medium or large enterprises. And the reason it matters is they're the ones who buy cybersecurity. And it's not the same as the traditional tech model where you like start small, get some partners, and then move up. No, you have to start large. And read. There's a book. I think it's called Cyber for Builders by a guy named Ross. Maybe, I don't know. I read the book. It explains everything you need to know to build a cybersecurity company. If you're going service based, it's a lot easier to start. And you probably don't need investment, but you're going to need to signal credibility pretty well. So, man, just sell something else. Sell something else.
Something else. Fun easy way.
Rather sell people money. Like, hey, here's my tool that makes you sell 1,000 times more for 1,000 times the price. That's selling people money. Instead, I have to say, hey, buy this thing, and somehow it makes money appear or not disappear.
It's a hard game, and I think it's the market is full of so many different solutions. I think we need to start cutting back because it's too much. It's too much. It's not solving a problem. It's another tool. It's another service. It's another company. We just need starting back and hold up. Like, I need to understand what the problem is, and then
Exactly. It's not about building a thing; it's about solving a problem. And go find a problem worth solving and solve it better than anyone else.
The perfect line to finish our podcast, our episode today. Well,
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Grayson, for sharing your journey, for sharing your insights. I think we touched so many things. It's like so much food for thought.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me. And, for everyone who's listening, share your expertise and you stay creative and adaptive and empower your brand.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thanks.
Cut. Done. Perfect.
Cut. Okay. Hopefully that was good.
You know what I was talking about? Speaking of big companies and data, have you watched Joe Rogan and Mark Zuckerberg interview?
Oh, no, I haven't.
Have a look.
Oh, that sounds great. The timing.
It's a really long, it was like 3 hours watch, and I literally could make it only to like 1.5, probably a half of it, but definitely watch. Definitely.
That sounds great. Given how inflammatory that topic is right now with Facebook.
So he's been really opening or trying to protect himself and playing on the different side now. Snake is always snake, even if it's take off the skin, but the only thing I'll tell you is just watch it, listen or whatever. It's quite interesting.
Sounds interesting and relevant to me.